What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Legacy of Star Wars, your one stop shop for all things Star Wars. We are broadcasting this time for the final time from Fandom Empire. Turns out there's some YouTube restrictions from preventing us from broadcasting on the other channel that were handled today, and we'll be good to go next week. Joining me, as they have throughout most of the episodes for the season, it's Randy and Kieran. Randy, how you feeling after this episode, man? Episode 6 in the books, only 2 parts to go.
I mean, it's kind of a bummer that there's only 2 parts to go. I feel like there's still a lot left to be brought about in these final 2 episodes. But honestly, I think it was time for an episode like this where it's kind of like that uh, calm before the storm, so to speak, getting more character development with Osha, which is good. We needed that. But also, um, I liked, even though it did feel a little longer, which I know it was, but like the pacing just kind of slowed things down. It felt like we got things got to breathe a little bit, and I really kind of enjoyed watching the different characters and how they're growing and how they reacted to certain things. And we finally got some decent scenery shots that we had been sorely missing. I mean, you can't fake that rocky beach with the ocean. That's very hard to do. That was actually really well done, and I really enjoyed that a lot. Just because it's something that actually felt real for a change versus seeing Kofar again. But beyond that, I really enjoyed it. I think it did. It's setting something up to give us kind of a more of a big reveal that's going to push us to the end.
Kieran, how about you, man? How you feeling? Episode 6 in the books. Some non-spoiler thoughts.
I think it's great. I think it did its thing again. It brought up a whole bunch of questions. I want to watch next week. I'm really, I don't know if I'm going to be waiting 7 days. Like, how am I going to? I mean, I'm going to have to, but that's how I feel. So I feel good about the episode, and I agree with Randy that it was time to have a slower pace, get some things out of the way with the characters. Not get out of the way. That makes it sound like like it just we had to do it. No, it did. It made up for the last episode's total action by going back to story, going back to giving us questions and making us think a little bit more than just sitting there watching lightsabers fly by. So yeah, I like the episode quite a bit.
Randy, do you have any more non-spoiler thoughts?
Not really. I'm ready to get into the meat and potatoes of this thing because I'm really curious about some of the things you think about this episode.
I'm going to get mine out of the way early here because I don't know how much I'm going to be talking on this episode. Full transparency, I'm not feeling great. So, um, yeah, so this episode. For me, it was, and some people in the comment section might not like this based off what I'm seeing, far and away the best episode yet. I thought it was the most complete episode. I thought the sound design was great. I thought the cinematography was great. The acting was fantastic. Lots of lore stuff that comes up in this episode. Still a little on the shorter side for my liking, but um, I just found myself far more engaged with what was going on, and I the best way I can put it is, and I still think when you have stagecraft scenes, which we've had, maybe not stagecraft scenes, but small set scenes compared to what we've gotten in, or what we just got in this episode, it's hard to blend them together as if it's the same show. But honestly, other than runtime, I have no complaints with this episode. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm sure some of the payoff I'm hoping for is probably not going to come, but there were some very intriguing things said during this episode that opened the door for some outlandish possibilities.
I completely agree with that. There's quite a few lines that so I used to, when I used to review Rick and Morty on this channel, I would always have a notepad with me. So every line that came up, I was like, oh, I need to write that down. Like, oh, that's a reference to this. Like, I kind of had little, and I felt it got in the way of me enjoying the episode, watching it, but I definitely feel like I had a lot of things to write down during this one. Oh, he said that. Oh, this person said that. So I was pretty, yeah. There's lots to go through with this episode. I think it's going to be hard for me to remember it. I hope that you guys did.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna say like definitely some of the dialogue was very very intriguing, especially when which is interesting here is they call him the stranger because since he's dropped his Khmer persona altogether and like this more serious side to this character, it feels more real than what he was. He's the bumbling Jar Jar type idiot in other episodes, but just the one line of like, when you lose everything, you are completely set free. I was just like, he's trying to seduce her to the dark side to be his new acolyte. And we definitely saw that she's definitely considering it. It's kind of crazy to think that just by just a few simple things, like him kind of trying to contradict all the Jedi stuff that she learned, Osha's character is, there's definitely more depth to this character, and there's more how should I say it? It almost pays credence to May telling her that they wiped her mind. Like there's things in her past she doesn't know that the Jedi changed, and this is I mean, that's, they're hinting at it. That's kind of, and I'm really curious to see if we actually get to see parts of that, or at least have everything unlocked. So it's just from that one line alone, my train of thought went all the way through all that, going, wow, all this, and this. I'm thinking KOTOR. I'm thinking, the arrogance of what the Jedi have become and how they started their fall, like all that stuff, just from one simple line. That's some pretty crazy stuff right there, the way I look at it. And that's just from the strangers and Osha's perspective. I mean, looking at the stuff we got with May and Soul, I mean, damn, Soul just gets me every episode. Everything he does, his facial expressions, everything is so believable. It just blows me away that this dude he gets it, and he goes all out every single scene he's in, and I love it.
I definitely agree with you. There was one thing that I found kind of unbelievable, and it's like a kind of a nitpicky thing, but the way that he hugged May was really weird. Get over here!
I think that was done on purpose. I think he was trying to see if it was May or Osha, because I think he suspected.
How would she react to it? Yeah, that's true. I mean, it did seem like he was like, I don't think so. Sean mentioned last episode, I think you were on the same page with him, saying that he probably knows, like he's probably putting it together. I think this is showing that he wasn't maybe as far along that train of thought as it seemed in that episode, but he was getting it. Like, I feel like he was at the start of like, all right, like acting a little bit strange, or this does not seem so, like maybe there's something going on with Osha here, but obviously he put it all together, and he was giving her little tasks and things like that, and the way that he was giving her kind of like probing questions, maybe we're kind of working through it, which was cool. And I definitely like the way that was done, because I like I said on the previous episode, if he just knows, I think that would have been kind of silly that he didn't just like confront her in the first place, right? Like, anyways, I like the way it played out better than the way that I had thought last week it might go. So that was pretty cool. And yeah, I agree. I don't know. Soul's the star of the show for sure. Even though he's probably not going to survive the show, he's definitely I think he's the star of the show, really.
Yeah, I think I will say one of the nice little touches is the pip droid, where when she does the factory reset, it turns its lights to red rather than the white. So it's kind of like a tell in a sense of the way that she reacts to the droid and the fact that the colors changed. And I think that was, it was a nice little nod to the difference in personality. And I think that could also have been a telling factor as well, because he was always used to he made comments about how Osha always treated that droid like family, essentially. And
Yeah.
May just didn't give off that vibe, the Pip droid. So I think that was kind of like that final piece that fell into place for him.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess since Sean's not here, we'll try to keep this grounded and go to.
I'm here. I'm off cam and got a baby and dealing with some things.
Oh, I was just gonna say, normally you kind of keep us grounded in what we should talk about first, because I go off the rails all the time. But I'll give it a try and
by
say
all
we go.
means, go off the rails. Discuss the episode. I wanted to follow up on Randy, but my little girl came out. So I have to ask. You said the word stranger. They're just calling him the stranger now. An unknown planet. Is there a chance he's a mysterious stranger?
That is always very possible.
Do you know where I'm going with that or no?
Not off the top of my head, no. But thinking about it, I'm just like, it's possible.
He has a line in this episode. Okay, first of all, how old does this guy really look? At most 30s. Maybe he's a really good looking young 40-year-old.
I was going to bring this up.
He was a Jedi a very long time ago. And I'm like, you're not old enough to be around a long time. Well, I can tell you right now, in the Knights of the Old Republic video game, the first nickname your character goes by is on Terrace, and he goes by the Mysterious Stranger.
I mean, I don't think that's him, but it definitely seemed like a little bit of a nod. But I wanted to bring that up especially because not only does he say like, I was a Jedi like a long time ago, he like doubles down on it. And he's like a really long time ago. There's a line in between. He's like, it was like longer than that. Definitely makes him think like he's able to keep himself together or live a very long time, which is kind of telling over what kind of character he could be. Honestly, to me, it makes it seem more like he might end up being part of the Plagueis line. We mentioned several characters he could be, or where he could be in that. But that line and the feel of the episode really makes me think that he is going to be part of that line in some sort of way, because it seems like this show, especially this episode, is really tying it into Star Wars lore in so many ways. Not only like the island looking a lot like Octo as well is really interesting. I was looking around waiting for Porgs to show up.
You kind of got something similar, just not quite as cute.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when the two of them were cuddling together, it was pretty cute. I thought that, and I thought the way that he spoke really like kind of tied everything together, like it like pulled from so many different things of Star Wars and put it all together. So I'm starting to think much more like this might be Plagueis' master, or maybe maybe he ends up being Plagueis in some sort of way, or in that line. And I think this episode brought that idea like a couple notches up for me.
I mean, it is interesting because if you think back to a lot of the articles, Leslie Headland talking about pulling from KOTOR 2. Talking about, I mean, we remember Darth Sion and how long he lived through just his hate alone, his hate and anger sustained him for so long to the point before he finally, you finally defeat him. But the idea of this character potentially maybe being considered even, I wouldn't say the exile, but still, it's an interesting thing to think about, uh, having a nameless character like that and just having lived for so long. I mean, we knew, playing the old Republic game. I mean, how old was Revan when he showed up in that? And I mean, he traveled to how many different galaxies and was still alive after hundreds of years and showing up in the old Republic MMO. So is it crazy to think that disciples of Revan living long enough to see the High Republic? That's not far off if you go by the logic from that series. So it's, I mean, technically, if you think about it, the quote unquote canon for the Old Republic was Revan becoming a Sith again, and also which would mean the exile would probably become a Sith again, and in finding Revan, it's not wholly out of the question that we're kind of treading that area, bringing some of that stuff into the Disney canon of things.
The actual Disney canon for Revan is just that he's been mentioned in some sort of way, correct?
Yeah, one of the I think
like his symbol is somewhere or something stupid like that.
I think it's one of the Planet Killer. Yeah, I think it's one of the Planet Killer Star Destroyers is called Revan or something like that. I think it's briefly mentioned, but and I mean we knew Dave Filoni wanted to bring Revan into it back in the Clone Wars, so the animatronic that he made is still there as a deleted scene. So
we know he's canon. Yeah. We know Revan existed at some point. But other than that,
there's no real info.
And I know Kieran's like, well, no, it's definitely not him. I got to tell you, I'm not entirely sure about that.
You know what? I can see.
Think about
because they can really do anything they want with it. Obviously, I mean they already screwed up Kiadi Bundy.
Good Lord, that's not. Let's just put that one to bed. We knew the Jedi Council in the prequels were already corrupt, that they were already arrogant, they were already scared of the Sith. They knew about them. They chose to bury it. And everything that came out in that movie can easily be like, yeah, they were just hiding it from people just so they wouldn't be worried about it. And that's pretty much, I'm thinking exactly what it is, because Kiadi Mundi strikes me as that type of person. Is like, nah, we're not going to tell anybody. Nope.
Well, right now, I mean, I was just talking about his age or whatever, but he shouldn't have been born for 30 years or something stupid like that. But it was not canon at all anymore, so it doesn't matter. But I mean, the only one who knows other than Soul now is Vernestra, and that is actually, I guess, I don't know. Do we want to jump into another point, or?
All I would say is, before we go to something else, is I wouldn't rule out Revan simply because we know that dark side Force users can manipulate their appearance, can extend their life. Randy just brought it up in Legends in terms of Scion. It did turn out that the helmet was Cortosis. The helmet also somewhat resembles Revan's, especially when we got the inside look and the very narrow visor look. I'm not saying it is. It could be an apprentice even. I doubt that they're going to go that far back. But I am saying, in terms of canon material, there's nothing that rules it out yet. I think it's far more likely that Kieran is probably right, something in Plagueis' line, etc. But however, 2 episodes in a row, they've played the Knights of Ren, which is pretty close to Revan, the Knights of Ren theme. Well, this guy's been on screen. And then I actually sat through the credits, not intentionally, but was doing things. And at the end of the credits, they fade from the credit music and immediately go into Kylo's theme. And it ends on that. So,
wow.
I don't know.
I'd say that's super telling. Like, I what other reason can they put things like that in for? Like,
None that I can think of. Like, why even have that theme in there? But that's twice in a row now where Kylo Ren's theme has come up, and Leslie Headland was asked that question during this week, and she basically said, "There's a reason for it, but no comment."
oh, all right. Well then, scratch everything we just said. I mean, he's got to be part of the Knights of Ren. Like,
I mean, he could be
I
the
don't know.
original, the originator of the Knights of Ren. It's always a possibility there, but and even if he's not Revan, there's always that possibility in the next 2 episodes. He's like, yes, some of these teachings I've learned from the teachings of Revan that I found on this planet, or in these, some or out of this, Sith holocron that could So I mean, there's the
I
excitement
mean,
level for that potential is there.
if that planet turns out to be Octo, then he could have that library which has like a Sith book in it. Because
It'd be
that
kind of interesting
library,
to get
that library that's in The Last Jedi there has one book that's super Sith looking.
I mean, it's definitely possible, especially if like within the next episode or two, he takes her to that one pit, that one cave and pit that Rey went to.
Yeah.
So if that something like that happens, then we know exactly what planet they're on.
I feel like the fact that they put unknown planet, like, I mean, I guess they're like unknown, like nobody knows where it is. That's why the Jedi can't find them or whatever. But I don't know. I don't see any reason why not to give it a stupid name. Like, I don't know. If none of these things come true, then they did a really good job putting things out there to make us ask questions, which is fantastic. Like, I know a lot of people would think if it goes nowhere, then why did they play the music? Or why did they do that? Or like, if it doesn't go somewhere, why did they do it? But I don't know. I like sitting here being like, oh my God, what's going to happen next week? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be the Knights of Ren? Is it going to be Darth Revan? Is it going to be Octo? Is it going to be like Plagueis? Like, for me, being able to sit around here and be like, oh my God, what's going to happen next week is fantastic.
No, I mean, I totally agree with you.
I think next week it is the episode 3 director returning. So I'm guessing we're getting half real time, half flashback.
I bet it would be. I would be willing to say it'll be like 75% flashback. I mean, I guess there's not
story time with Soul.
I guess there's not too much to tell, so maybe you're right, because there should be something to tell, but it's the other part of the coin that we've already seen. Like, we already know, we already have the gist of what happened, unless there's a lot of backstory.
I was kind of hoping when she. Sorry, Randy. I was kind of hoping when she touched the mask there, and or when she put it on, that she would like have some vision. Maybe that's coming. I don't know, but
well, I think when she put the mask on, and you could tell that the fear was there because of the way she was breathing. But after, even though it faded to black, she eventually hit that calm before everything faded to black. So I think you might get something like that, or even her explaining what happened on the next episode. But I also think, with what we're going to get with Soul telling the story to May, I feel like we're going to have that half and half, where he's going to tell her everything, and she's going to probably have this epiphany and be on his side. We're going to probably see Osha starting to understand the stranger better, and starting to start to feel like she could totally agree with everything he's saying, and how she should, embrace her true self, which I have to give a lot of credit here for the acting, just because of like the frustration and the anger you saw in her eyes, and the tears welling up. And I thought for a split second, I thought she was gonna at least slash him in some way, shape, or form, even if it wasn't a killing blow. But yeah, it was like that. I like that fight where she wants to hold on to her Jedi principles, but she's starting to feel the pull of the dark side and starting to understand that maybe there's more to the Force than she's been first led on, which, I mean, where have we heard that before? I mean, think about when Palpatine was talking to Anakin about, how the Jedi aren't going to teach certain things that are considered the dark side of the Force. So there's some parallels here that they're making that are, it's interesting, and I'm really curious how it's going to play out.
I mean, even Kylo, like in the movies, quite often, like you can see that he's like he's sometimes he's like, oh, I still feel like a little bit of goodness, and Snoke's like, no, like, and he feels the pull, but he feels the pull towards the dark side a lot more, right? Like, so it's almost like once you get set on this path, like it's like pulling you in, right? Like, so I think the stranger, I guess I want to call him Kemir still, but I guess the stranger, is like, once I start pushing you a little bit on the path there, like you'll start to feel the pull. You'll want the power. You'll want the freedom. Like even more. Like, I mean, most of the Sith or the dark side users are quite often like concerned with power and being able to do this, but like I like that he's much more relatable in that he's basically saying like he wants to be free. I want to be able to do this stuff my own way. I want I can use the Force. I want to be able to do it whichever way I want to. He's not like I want to rule the galaxy. He's like the Jedi want me to do this and follow their strict rule book, but I want to take what's mine. I want to do what I want to do. So I think it makes him much more relatable than just being like, I better destroy the galaxy or whatever. Like, no given reason, I just want to rule the galaxy.
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. It's a different take for a dark side user for sure. At this point, I can't even say he's a Sith, even though he's like, well, I guess you would call me a Sith. No, you seem to be just an individual who just wants to live your life the way you want to live it and not by dogmatic rules. And it's obviously we can't say going back to earlier, we can't say he's like the exile because the exile was considered a wound in the Force. So it's very interesting because this guy doesn't feel like a wound in the Force. He feels like he's more alive, stronger, and able to meet others through the Force, because we're seeing it with Osha. He's slowly but surely pulling back little things here and there that's kind of making her doubt everything. But of course, I think we're seeing that kind of the way Soul treated May. I think we're gonna see him start to kind of poke holes in things and kind of make her doubt where her allegiance was. I will say it was a sad scene to go back to Kofar and see everybody dead. I'm like, I didn't need to see your Jackie dead again. Come on, we already got that. It's kind of a bummer. But I really hope. And I really hope that is not the only use of that lightsaber whip, because that would be absolute bullshit. I'm not gonna lie.
I think we're building to, like, Vernestra's inserted herself into this conflict now. I mean, she's not just going to follow them till the end. So
yeah,
I believe she'll be there for whatever the end conflict is. And it's so weird. The use of Vernestra in the show is so weird. Like, she is in the books like like a prodigy nerd type of character. She seems, but she's very altruistic in the books, and she doesn't seem like that in the show. I don't know if that's just because she's way far along in her Jedi career and she's lost her way, like a lot of Jedi do. I think a lot of them approach being a Jedi from a great point of view, and then they just get sucked into some of the bullshit that happens. But I feel like she's not not super close to her character in the books, which is one of the only things I've been really disappointed with in the series, because I do like the character and I've read most of the books that she participates in, or at least I've
Yeah.
read like 3 or 4 of them.
Well, it is a
So yeah, it's been kind of odd.
100-year time jump, so there's a lot that could have happened to her in that time, right? So she doesn't look like an old woman, but she's an old woman.
Yeah.
um, Man, someone said something. Oh, George's point here. Why did the Jedi choose to bury the fact the Sith have revealed themselves? My guess, and Kieran might not like this, is none of them are making out of this thing alive, including Vanestro.
I mean, it makes total sense, to be perfectly honest. We've seen how powerful the Stranger is. I mean, he dispatched 6 of them like they were nothing. And I mean, yeah, Soul held his ground, but even he was getting the Soul a little bit because he was playing mind games and getting him to start uh, getting close to that where he was actually going to start using his fighting with his emotion, which would have caught me. Eventually, he would have made a mistake and would have probably fallen. That's the one thing with a Jedi. If you can, as long as they stay calm, they're usually pretty good. It's when you get into their emotions that usually you can cause them to make a mistake.
I want to ask you
But
guys what you thought about the comment that Chimera or the Stranger, or whatever we're calling him, makes during the episode when the scar shown on his back looks like something a lightsaber would leave, and he says, "Someone that didn't want me anymore." Do we think that he's talking about a former Jedi master, or do we think that he's talking about a Sith master? And in fact, I think anyway, for me, I think he at least was a Sith. He might not officially be a Sith anymore. Um, but I do think he's talking about a Sith master. But some people I see are already interpreting it as his former Jedi master.
I mean, it makes sense that it could be his Sith master that did it, because um, he's acting as if he is the master right now. Like he's looking for his apprentice. So it's quite possible that he's like, fuck this guy. I'm gonna go do the Sith thing my own way, or go do dark side Force user thing my way. And he's obviously really, really desperately looking for an acolyte or a disciple or whatever you want to say. Like that's his main goal of this show. So it'll be interesting to see if he gets it, because being that he's a big part of the show and one of the main characters, like it would be weird for him not to get his goal in the end if we don't think that he's going to die. We think that he's going to continue. So whether it's Osha or May or or who, but he should end up with his disciple at some point. So but yeah, it definitely makes it seem like it could be a Sith who gave him that. I think it would be a little bit stepping over. Like if it was a Jedi, like I see the Jedi, I don't have a problem with the Jedi having errors in their ways, because I feel like it makes sense that when you start to organize something like what the Jedi are supposed to be in such big numbers, you're going to get problems. But I feel like a Jedi just like going and whipping them in the back with a lightsaber would be, I don't know. I think that'd be a little bit too overboard with me. Like I think that they might be going too far to, damage the Jedi in canon for me. But
so I'm going to play off of this and give you the Obi-Wan treatment from a certain point of view. And to him, let's throw this out there. What happens if he finally snaps? He finally is over the training. He's over being told what to do. He's over just not being able to live his life. And he turns on his Jedi Master. His Jedi Master is going to defend themselves. And during the battle, he thinks he delivered the killing blow because of how he injured him, and just leaves him. It's always, so that's always a possibility that from that point of view, the Jedi did do this to him. But again, also that type of wound could be could be Sith related as well, just because he definitely, even though he has has a strong connection to the dark side, the one thing here that makes it more interesting is the fact that his lightsaber styles, he doesn't have a very specific stance. He's not using anything, like that. Any of the forms we see, whether it's Shicho or Saresu or anything like that, he's using an amalgamation of all of them. So it's almost as if part of it's self-taught, part of it, but he definitely did start out clearly as a Padawan, at least based on what he's saying. Did he reach Jedi Knight or Jedi? Maybe. That's always possible. But ultimately, and hell, we'll even go the KOTOR route, right? Say he is like maybe an offshoot of the Exile or something like that, where Revan is involved. Would Revan do something like that? Probably. But you have to look at from back then the different, if we're going to canonize all this, I mean, chances are it was a Sith master that did this to him after he defected from the Jedi. But it's still interesting to think, what did he do to earn that scar? Because I don't think it was just done to him. I think he fought for his life and it was given to him and he somehow survived. I think that's what we're going to find out about him. And maybe that's what we're going to get next episode. A flashback telling some of his backstory, and then the flashback for May telling her what exactly happened. I mean, that's always a possibility.
I thought about the possibility too of what if we get the flashback and Kimir's there and he's just one of the other people who was there. We just didn't see him last time. Maybe like May and Osha didn't see him, but maybe he was still, in the party, and we find out, what kind of crazy thing happened with him. Maybe the stories add up together. I mean, it wouldn't make so much sense of him saying a long time ago, but I think Soul said it was like 15 years ago, though.
Right. But for him, and here's an interesting thing. What if Vernestra was his master, and that's what happens from her lightsaber whip?
I had thought about that before, because it is a very jagged, weird-looking scar, so I had thought about that before, but once again, I think I'm just adding up that character should not do that, but then again...
What if Venestra's the other Sith?
Well, wasn't there reports of a Sith infiltrating the Jedi?
Yeah,
wasn't that like one of the...
canon. Yeah.
So you might be, that could be it. That could be why she's so invested in cleaning this up.
Yeah. Yeah, and she could be the one who's kind of led them all down this path.
Boy, there are going to be people that hate that if they go down that road. Maybe
honestly, there's going to be people who hate every single road that we have talked about.
Exactly.
There's going to be someone who hates. Like if this ends up being Darth Revan and he shows up in his fucking sweet costume,
people are going to blow up.
Yeah, people will be like, "That's not my Revan." Like,
you see, nice.
It doesn't really matter what,
used as frisbees, and yeah, people are nuts.
There is nothing that this show could have possibly been that would have made everyone happy. Like, there's nothing they could have done. Now they could have been much more well liked if they did this or that, or kept all their characters, certain this or that. But they would never even please like 60% of the fan base that's online, at least.
Dustin why she doesn't get word to the council. I think that lines up. I think the scar on the back could line up. I'd much rather him be like an offspring of Revan or whatever, the first Knight of Ren, or but I could see that being in play. But if for some reason, like, the water he went in is like the fountain of youth and he's able to maintain it, like the Sith, that wouldn't be new to different Star Wars canons. There's abilities to keep yourself from aging. But if it did turn out to be Revan, man, yeah, the backlash would be almost comical to watch, but I fear it. Like I once knew this guy that like literally cracked in half a Scream disc on stream, and I would hate to see the reaction of some other people, what they would do. Although at the same time, it'd be funny too. So like, I'm kind of sick and twisted that way.
Oh, you mean like those people that are like sports fans who break their TVs when things don't go their way?
Oh, dude. Part of me now just wants to like someone needs to put out a fake leak and be like confirmed it's Revan just to see the internet backlash.
I'd say that I would enjoy that, but I'm at the point now where I don't even pay attention to it. So I don't know. I every once in a while I click on a message board and I'm like, someone will post like, "Hey, did you see the Acolyte episode 5? Like, what do you guys all think?" And I'll click on it, but like right when I get in the comment section and someone's like, "Oh, this is like blah blah blah," I'm like, wait, no, I don't want to do this. This is stupid. I'm not even gonna look. Like, I don't need to invest in what other people are thinking right now. So yeah, so I probably wouldn't even know about it if people were freaking out about it now.
Well, I'm not too worried about it. I mean, at this point, I'm enjoying
See, I
Star
don't even
Wars
know
for
what
what
Star
it
Wars
is.
Theory is doing anymore. I used to kind of be a Star Wars Theory hater, but now I just don't care what he's doing. So
Yeah, nothing possible said that.
yeah,
I'm just enjoying Star Wars for Star Wars. As long as
yeah,
I
I
mean,
know.
I'm even able to find good stuff in some of the bad stuff, with the exception of the holiday special. We were not going to go there. There is nothing good about the holiday special. I can't find it. I've watched it once. Once was enough. We're good.
I'm going to step away for a few minutes here in a second, and you guys can feel free to discuss any story points or even predictions of where you think this is going in the final 2 episodes. But I got to ask you guys. You guys know I'm a quality snob and love cinematography, and I thought it was outstanding in this episode. Not just the island stuff, even the shots of Coruscant were better.
Mm-hmm.
Does it not bother you though at all to see no quality control in terms of this looks this good, but the rest of the show couldn't look this good? Like, take the island out of it. Even the Coruscant stuff, whether it's in the temple or out of the temple, looked far better. And for me, it's just like, can we get some consistency, even if it takes you 3, 4, 5 more months to put something out?
Well, and I think
I
that's half the
I mean,
problem. It's
I
whether it's video games or shows, it always seems like, especially when it comes to Disney, they're trying to cut corners, they're trying to push stuff out. They're just oversaturating the market and then they're thinking, well, people are gonna watch it anyway, so let's just kind of get it out there. And it's like, okay, I get you want to put the product out there, but something that's kind of important is the look, the feel. um Hell, even let's think about award season, even, because I mean, if you do it well enough, I mean, think about it. Andor, got some award love, at least some nods and things like that. The Mandalorian's gotten nods when they've really put their time into it and treated it well. This is the type of show that should have been high quality from the word go. This because the story was there, the acting, the grade of the actors they brought in was there. These people are acting their asses off, and all people are going to complain about is that didn't look like a real tree. That rock looks plastic. It's just stuff that could have easily been done if they just taken a little extra time to just be like, hey, look, we can make this look better. Let's give everybody just that experience where they feel like they're transported. Let's feel like they're transported to Kofar. Or the earlier episodes with the Jedi Temple being kind of and now we get to see a better one in this episode. Like, let's just fine tune it. And if it takes an extra couple months, sure. It's not like you don't have the money, you know. just, and then of course, I know Sean's we've harped on it before, looking at like House of the Dragon or Game of Thrones or anything like that. And you can tell the love, the care, and how they just want to give you the best product possible to keep you coming back week in and week out. Now, the show's done a great job in terms of the story and the characters. I still would have loved the rest of the show to look like this past episode did, just because at least it would have just held, it would have, my scores are there, and it would have held my interest a little bit more. Yeah, but this episode, I didn't pick up my phone at all. Whereas other episodes, I picked up my phone and played around on it while the episode was going on. That was always a great barometer to tell you just how engaged you are.
I just want to point out a couple other things, and then I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on how you think it's all going to end, if you were betting men. But two things. First off, someone mentioned in the chat earlier about if the fella who plays Soul doesn't win an Emmy, they're going to go order 66 on someone's ass. You need to remember that they don't judge Emmys based on someone learning to speak the role. It's strictly based on performance. And I'm sorry, he's not winning an Emmy for this. And if you're setting yourself up with those expectations, sit down, watch an episode of House of the Dragon, Succession, The Last of Us, several other shows that I've probably never seen an episode of, and they're just not the same level at all. And
Hell, even
secondly,
Fallout.
I haven't seen Fallout yet, but I heard it's
You
amazing.
need to sit down and watch it, dude.
Now, I've never played the games. Is that going to be a problem?
No.
Okay.
It's a great story, and you talk about production value, straight up your alley.
Nice. I also like Walton Goggins, so I think he plays the lead in that. So
one of the leads, yep.
Oh, okay. The other one, Kymir, the Stranger, whatever. Obviously, he's got to stretch his wings now in 2 episodes. You could really say he's never gotten to do that in the previous episodes. For me, even though it's only been 2 episodes, right there was Soul as best performer in the series. Your guys' thoughts on that?
He's definitely like on his like I said, last episode his acting was awesome, and I thought I was very intrigued by the character. But the lines were a little bit wonky last time. I remember I mentioned there was a couple lines, and I didn't go back and figure out exactly which ones they were. But this episode did not have that. It was actually, I thought, really well written, and his explanations for everything and his motivations were explained really well, and he did a great job acting. And I'm very, very jealous of his muscles. And, the guy just looks fantastic. I wish I'd look like that. But no, it was, he was great. Honestly, I've been saying Soul, and I know Randy has as well, but like, really that's just because I thought he was doing a great job from episode 1, whereas now we're just in the last couple episodes getting him. He's just as intriguing a character. And I agree. He's awesome. Sometimes I think when we think about Star Wars possibly winning some awards and things like that, we just have a really low bar for Star Wars because there's been some really, really awful acting in sci-fi altogether. I'm not even just going to kick the can on Star Wars, but like, it doesn't matter whether you like Star Trek or Battlestar Galactica or anything that's on TV. There's usually some pretty bad acting on every single sci-fi show. And that's just a thing. I don't know. They put more of their money into all the spaceships they need to build and stuff like that than making sure that all the actors are, hidden gems and things like that. So, but I agree. Soul's awesome. He's great. Acting is fantastic. But yeah, an Emmy is probably a pretty far stretch just because, there's all those West Wing type of shows that will have, someone who's, and there's so many Hollywood actors now in TV, and it's like, it's a little bit different trying to win those now. Anyways. I guess that's my opinion on those things. Randy, you have anything to add to those 2 questions?
So And so as far as The Stranger goes, Manny Jacinto has done a great job getting the chance to show us the other side of what was once Kamir, the bumbling idiot. I do like this character a lot better. I like the fact that of how the character feels on screen, like there's a presence there, whereas when he was trying to portray his, his to do his take on Jar Jar Binks, he was just in the background. And I think that was done on purpose. It was to try to misdirect you, even though for some of us,
You mean he didn't kick the garbage can over on purpose?
we all know that. We all know that's there's a reason for that. He was, again, it was trying to throw everybody off. But it's crazy to think that in the past 2 episodes, he's done such a phenomenal job of just taking and essentially killing off Kamir and bringing in the stranger and have the menace and the presence that usually takes multiple episodes beyond just 2 episodes roughly to really kind of give you a feel for who this guy is. And he's done this in essentially less than an hour. That's pretty damn impressive, if you ask me. Other than that, shoot, trying to think here. As far as, I think the other question was, what we think's going to happen. What? I don't know. And I think that's an okay answer. I think because I'd rather not know. I'd rather not. I can have all this speculation of, where are we going with this? Who's going to do what? But honestly, the fact that I really don't know is refreshing. It makes me feel, that's what gets me even more excited for next week, because I don't know. I mean, do I have an idea that we're going to get some backstory? Of course, but I don't know it's all going to be revealed. And I don't know. I mean, the only other thing that I'm pretty confident on is Soul's probably going to die in the end, which is going to bum me the hell out. But other than that, it's kind of an anything can happen sort of thing, and I'm digging that feeling. I like the fact that I can't write the story, that I have to watch it and find out exactly how it all goes down. That's probably the most exciting part to me right now.
I mean, I do have like I said earlier, I don't really think now that it's going to end in a Soul versus the Stranger, or I think it's going to be Vernestra coming to fight the Stranger in the last sort of battle that happens there. I don't know how Osha and May will play a part. I don't know. Those are the characters I really don't know what's going to happen. Like, I think that Soul will he'll either die, or like he'll either get killed, or he will be so upset or whatever, or so taken over by what's happened that he kills himself, or somehow gets rid of himself, or even maybe he gets mind wiped. Maybe he finds a way to get someone to mind wipe him and becomes a regular person after that, or maybe they wipe it out of his mind, and then Vernestra goes on knowing the only one who knows the secret. I don't know. It could be a lot of things, but I think that Vernestra will play a big role in the last episode, because I don't see any reason why she would insert herself into looking for it and then only get to the end of the so the Stranger guy killed Soul, Osha and May are gone, case solved. Like I don't I think she's coming to battle the Stranger, so I think that's going to happen. But yeah, May and Osha are the ones that I really can't figure out how it's going to go, because they both have seemingly May might get the story of what really happened and start to become a little bit of a good guy, and Osha may decide that she's digging this dark side thing, and they just do a total Bret Hart Stone Cold double turn. I don't really know where those characters are going. I think the other ones all have paths laid out to only a certain way, a certain amount of ways they can go. But yeah, I'm with Randy in that I don't know what's going to happen, and that's fantastic because quite often in Star Wars you really know where they're going, and you can kind of predict how it's going to go. It's not very often that there's so much possibilities, like really open ended. I guess Sean's gone.
Yeah, it would seem so. No, I agree with you. I'm definitely curious. I mean, could
That would
God at this point, when if Chimera the Stranger ends up being, yep, I'm Revan. I think it doesn't matter what. I think everybody's going to lose it in one way or another, and they'll be losing it in a good way, and they'll be the ones that lose it in the bad way, and then it'll be just another just kick back with your thing of popcorn and just kind of watch the chaos ensue, because that's exactly what'll happen.
I don't know. That's what, like the adults will be pissed off, and people like my son watching, he's only 12.
Who's that?
Like, who's that? And then I'll be like, I'll show you who that is. And he'll be like, this is cool. Like, he knows of Revan, but he doesn't really know much about the game and everything or whatever. So, I like, when it comes to Star Wars, I know a lot of people don't like to hear this, and so whatever. When it comes to Star Wars, it's for the kids. It's for fun. It's for amusement. It's not like, it's the same thing as wrestling for me. Like, they do stupid things in wrestling, and I'm like, this is like a goofy show that I enjoy. I get like, whatever. When they do something that makes no sense, and like, well, that guy was supposed to be a bad guy, and he just changed to being a good guy for no reason. And he's shaking hands with the guy that like beat him with a chair like only 2 months ago, and you're like, okay, well, if you want to draw all the logic, then don't watch wrestling. And the same thing, if you want to really dig into Star Wars, like, you gotta look through the eyes. You gotta look through the lens of having fun and being a kid. So I think that's a much more enjoyable way to take in Star Wars. I don't know.
I think you're right. I mean, to be clear, that's how George Lucas intended it to be. Right? Like, as much as I get on it for not being the quality of House of the Dragon or those other shows I mentioned earlier, George Lucas always intended it to be something a 12-year-old would watch.
Yeah, I don't know. I just
that and merchandising.
That too.
I just like, there are books and things like that are much more appealing to adults, and there are those things, and I know a lot of people want Star Wars to be that way, but like, I'll never get more, like, I'll never be a bigger Star Wars fan than playing with my Micro Machine action figures in the sand pit at school in grade 4. Like, I'll never love Star Wars more than that, maybe as much as that, but I like, so I feel like that's just how I feel about it. I don't want to tell people that they have to think of it that way, but that's how I feel about it, is that it's a kid show. So when you see some holes poked in some of the silly movies, you just go by, whatever. You just, what, 12-year-old me probably wouldn't have realized that this person has this other character's lightsaber in this scene, and doesn't make any damn sense, and they need to explain it to me, and whatever. Are we gonna rate this out of Nemoidians today, or what are we gonna do?
Yeah, give us your ratings, guys.
I
got mine already. You want more time?
Go ahead, because it's difficult, because I think last week, if memory serves me correctly, I think I at least gave it a 7 or a 7.5, and I'm just trying to figure out, is this on par or better than last week? So
my ranking, like, I'm pretty sure I gave an 8.5 last week, And my explanation was it was perfect at one thing. It wasn't multifaceted. It didn't tell a whole story in one episode. It didn't, it was missing some elements, but I really, really enjoyed it. And I'm going to give this episode an 8.5 for the exact same reason. We didn't get a crazy, if at the end of the episode we got a lightsaber duel between Osha and the stranger, and it was like 2 minutes of badassness, then it probably would have pumped up to a 9 or a 9.5. But I think this was really great. It was great storytelling to me. It was great acting. It sure as hell made me want to watch the next one, which is the point of TV. But it was no, it was the other facet of it. It was storytelling but no action, whereas last week was a lot of action and not really any storytelling. Both episodes I loved a lot, so for me it's the exact same ranking, 8.5, which is a really good trend up for this show, because the last 2 episodes were the highest rated shows for me, or highest rated episodes for me. And I see that, I don't know if Sean wants me to tell his rating.
Go for it.
But it looks like he's saying that he's giving it an 8. So very highly rated for Sean as well. Randy, you got your opinion made up on this. You ran it through the calculator, and what do we get?
Oh, most definitely. I literally was sitting there going back to the different episodes, and Sean's right. This probably is the best episode of the season so far, and that's a good thing. We're trending up, like you said, and ultimately, I'm going to go with my highest score of the season so far, and I will give it an 8, just because of the story, the setting, the pacing. Like, even though the show felt longer, it wasn't like one of those where you just kind of looking at the clock going, is it over yet? This was one of those ones where it's like, good, it's still going on. I'm getting all this information. I'm absorbing it. I'm not even looking at my phone. I don't care about my phone. I care about the story in front of me. That is always a good barometer for me. Like when I watch House of the Dragon, I don't touch my phone. So for me, it's always, if I always look at a show that way. With Ahsoka, I didn't really ever touch my phone ever. I was always super engaged. But granted, there are also characters I knew and loved. These are characters I'm growing attached to still. But obviously,
That's
I'm
fair.
full. With Soul, I'm fully on board with. I have been since episode 1. So, like, no pun intended, but being on the Soul train really does help a lot here. But getting Kamir to transform into the Stranger and getting his development as a character has really added something to the show that wasn't there before. May have been the acolyte and doing all this stuff for her master, but the introduction of him and the way he's been portrayed these past couple episodes, and how in just a short amount of time he's just acting the hell out of the role he's given as the villain, it's really added a new dimension for me that I'm enjoying the show a lot more now, that we have a personality behind the orders. We have someone who's been pulling the strings, and we understand the motivations. The true mark of a good villain is when you start to understand them and start to be like, wow, he makes really good points. There's only a few shows for me that really ever seem to do that. I'll go back to the Daredevil Netflix show with the Kingpin. He was like the perfect villain, because I actually started agreeing with him on some of the things he was trying to do. I'm like, wait a second, hold on a minute. Why am I siding with the bad guy here? And the same thing can be said here with the Stranger. There's certain points he made that I'm kind of going, these are some really good points. And then you kind of shake your head and go, wait a second, what am I doing? I'm siding with the villain. And when you find yourself doing that, that just shows you how good of a villain he is and how well written he is. And I think his dialogue was so much better this episode. So
I was going to be done for the episode, and then I heard Randy's horrific Soul Train pun,
I said no pun intended. I said no pun intended.
And no, seriously though, I don't know if you could have made a better point or a better example than Kingpin in the Netflix Daredevil series. Obviously, he gets way more screen time because the episodes are longer. They have time to breathe. That's my only regret at this point. But let me teach some Star Wars fans who sometimes have their head up their ass a lesson. Okay. And I feel like I can do this. If you guys remember, early on in this series, I said, ugh, oh God, no. Please don't let this guy be the dude under the mask, the Sith. I was completely against it, didn't want it. But you know what? I was wrong. It's okay to be wrong, people. And it's all about execution. And while I think a lot of things they have not executed well on, I think they've executed well on him. My only concern is we get a full episode of a flashback, like Kieran mentioned, and then we only get one more episode with him. That would be a shame. I'd feel like Thrawn from Ahsoka a little bit. But yeah, I was wrong, and kudos to them because I'm more than okay with it now.
Yeah, no, it's always you know what? It's important to be able to change your opinion on something, because otherwise you're left with whatever your initial opinion on everything is, and it's just like it's a very closed way to view the world. So, there's a lot of things I like now that I didn't like before, and
Halloween 5 still sucks.
be open. Sorry, that still sucks. Halloween 5. I don't know. That's a topic for another day.
It's almost like you had to get that little zing in there. It's like zing.
H5 is a masterpiece. That's what I always say. That's one of my favorite things to comment on a message board. I do it constantly on they make fun of it on the Slaughtered Lamb, if anybody remembers those guys. And they're constantly like H5 sucks, and I just put every single time exact same sentence. H5 is a masterpiece in all of their chats all the time. So, yeah. So now that we're talking about Halloween, we should probably get out of here. It seems like we're way off the rails now. I don't know. I tune into that. I tune in. I don't know why do people have such a big problem with midichlorians? I'm just kidding. I didn't ask that question. Because I don't want to get into that. Because I need to go to bed. So.
Yeah, I'll get us out of here. So, thanks for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications to all. That being said, you might only want to do that if you're a Halloween, horror, or Batman fan, because they're really the only topics this channel is going to cover. After today, if you want to cover or tune into our Star Wars content, the Legacy of Star Wars on YouTube, Westeros content, the Legacy of Westeros. Big thanks to Randy and Kieran for carrying this episode. Thanks to everybody who came out and participated in the chat. Episode 7's next week. That being said, actually, there will be some Star Wars content next week, but it won't be relevant to what happened in The Acolyte, because during this time slot next week is the final episode of Fandom Empire Live. So hopefully we can do our Acolyte episode the following day. But for those of you that have tuned into Fandom Empire over the years, thank you. One last hurrah before this thing becomes Haddonfield and beyond. And guys, thanks for doing this tonight. And we'll see you next week. May the Force be with you. Or serve you. You know, I kind of like Kymer's stance.